in. Oh, we are now live. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Best Phone Plans Podcast. Joining us today, we have special guest Craig Hanks from reviews.org. Craig is known in the industry for his extensive coverage and reviews of service providers in terms of streaming providers, different streaming boxes, the interfaces, things like that. So Craig, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I used to work your beat a little bit, cell phone providers and the hardware to a certain extent, but I've handed that off to somebody else on the channel now. So my knowledge is about a year out of date. So I'm looking forward to you guys schooling me on any cell phone related stuff.
Sure, absolutely. But yeah, I think, a great place to start is kind of how you got into it. So how did you get into sort of reviews.org, reviewing the different services, and then maybe like how has your role kind of evolved there?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I could go on at length, but I started at Reviews as a copywriter and was doing podcasting on nights and weekends. And somebody at work caught wind of my podcast and said, "Hey, we need somebody to start a YouTube channel. You do it." And I was like, all right, I guess. And so that was almost 5 years ago now. And anyway, we cover at reviews.org, we cover all sorts of home tech. So cell phones, yes, and streaming services, but also internet plans and home security and smart home equipment, that sort of thing. Anyway, so we're doing all of these different reviews on the YouTube channel, and suddenly the streaming stuff just started to take off. And so I really doubled down on that. And it was kind of by accident that I became a streaming expert, I guess.
Sure, like you stumbled into the role, kind of like it found you.
Yeah, exactly. And but it is a very interesting niche to cover because it's so dynamic. Like everything is changing all the time. There's always a new service coming out. Somebody's always changing their pricing. Somebody's always adding this channel or that show or whatever. So it's always keeping me on my toes.
That makes sense. Yeah. And was the podcast the Legendarium podcast? Is that still going on?
Yeah, actually, so that's my Twitter handle. The TLP is the Legendarium Podcast. I've been running that now for over 7 years, and that one's very different. We talk about fantasy and sci-fi literature, but we're actually just getting that YouTube channel stood up now, so if people want to go check it out, I'd love to have you.
Well, Craig, if you play Dungeons and Dragons, my friend, you can always join me and my friends. I'm sure that will have some good stories for you.
I played it once with my buddies, and then once with a group of Scottish women over the internet about 3 months ago. So that was an experience.
That does sound like an experience. But hey, Craig, so in this wild west world of streaming services, man, what is your preferred platform to stream on? I know you did a review about TiVo's new box. I know you tried out Flex. I know you tried. I think you've dabbled a lot of odd ones, but what's your go-to at this point? Like, is it the Apple TV or?
Oh man, so Apple TV Plus. Are you talking about which?
I'm talking about
or which
the
service?
device. The device.
Oh yeah, okay. So I'm a Roku man. Historically, I've got a couple of Roku TVs and a lot of the devices, but my new possible favorite is the new Google Chromecast with Google TV. So that one's really cool. It has some drawbacks, but I really like the recommendation algorithm. I like the layout for the most part. Yeah, it's a nice, slick little device.
What was your first device? Because I actually remember in my household, we got like the very first gen Roku box. Mm-hmm. That was like just Netflix. That was basically it. Super old, like a super clicky remote. But yeah, I'm curious, like what was your first box that you had at your home?
Yeah, it was a Roku also. The guy that hired me at Reviews, so way back, he had a Roku and he talked about it a little bit in conversation. Oh yeah, I stream on Roku, and I was still with Xfinity at the time, so I had my cable plan going, and I was like, what the heck kind of name is Roku? That's just sounds dumb. So I didn't get it for, I don't know, 6 months or a year after that. And then when it came time to look at cutting the cord, I was like, well, Dwayne had a Roku. Maybe I'll get a Roku. So yeah, that was how I started. But it wasn't the first gen. I think it was the second or third.
So, sure. But like, how do you pick which one's your favorite, right? Like, is it based off the streaming services? Because like for a while there, Roku didn't have HBO because of the whole licensing issue. So do you gravitate towards one platform based off the actual services that are available, or do you pick the platform first and then kind of pick your services surrounding that platform?
Yeah, it's a good question. Services first. Like, what you watch on doesn't matter as much as what you're watching, right? So services first. And the time when I started falling in love with the new Chromecast was actually when HBO Max and Peacock were not available on Roku and Fire TV. And so I had a Chromecast plugged into this Fire TV right next to me, this Roku TV next to me. And so when I wanted to watch HBO Max, I would flip over to the Chromecast. And then I found myself just hanging out there more than on my Roku screen. So I switched the input. So now when I turn on the TV, it goes straight to the Chromecast.
I love that. Yeah. My so I just moved to a new apartment, and the first TV I bought was actually a Roku TV. And I love that about it. I thought it had a clean interface. I love the dashboard. And once I figured out you could configure the starting input and what it jumped to right away, I was in love. Unfortunately, that TV broke on me. It actually had a weird power issue and just one day was totally dead. And so I was able to thankfully return it, and I got a new Sony TV. But yeah, no, my experience with the Roku interface and system was really on point. But yeah, you mentioned kind of the Google TV getting a little bit of love over there. So, it sounds like with so many streaming services, the new challenge is not like it used to be Netflix. Like that was the answer. All right, you want to do streaming, you go to Netflix. And now it's like we have all these different platforms. And it sounds like the key to winning streaming is almost aggregating the different services and like displaying these are the best shows to watch. So I think Apple is doing that, right? With Apple TV and Google's doing that with Chromecast.
It's one of the things I've always liked about the Apple TV was that it had that kind of collation of your favorites, your watch next list. Everybody sees these on Netflix or Hulu or whatever, but Apple TV brought it all together. So now you could see what you were just watching on Hulu or HBO or whatever. It would bring them all together, except for several vital services like Netflix. They never wanted to play ball with Apple TV in that little playground. And so that was one of the things I loved the most about the new Chromecast was that it took that concept, but they were able, I don't know what deals or what, money they had to pass into the table or whatever to make it happen, but they made it happen where you could get everything in a continue watching, and create a My List that was, had all of your Netflix and Disney Plus and HBO and all the rest. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, I got an Android TV, and I noticed I just had an update that pushed out, and it just started doing that functionality. Like, I was watching Crunchyroll, some anime, and it has it there, continue watching down in this little, like, My Watch tab, and it has other stuff that's recommending. It's awesome. But I'll tell you one thing. If we're talking about aggregators, the Flexbox, I know it's been like a year probably since you reviewed that.
That's true.
But the Flexbox from Comcast is actually super good. It's voice remote functionality because I have Comcast currently. I'm an internet only customer, of course.
Well, you must if you have the Flex.
But basically, I have I used to have all the streaming services, but I downgraded. Now I'm just using Hulu, Netflix, Amazon Prime, and Crunchyroll, which Crunchyroll still isn't on there, which kind of sucks. But basically, what's nice is if I talk into the remote and I'll say Wolf of Wall Street, just using an example, it'll actually search through all the stuff and kind of pull up almost like an old school on-demand style like icon. So I can click and just hit play and it opens up the Netflix app and boom, it starts playing. No other device that I've used, Roku or Fire Stick, gets it that spot on. Like when I try to use Fire Stick and talk into it, it'll take me to like the Amazon store to try to purchase something. And,
right.
And Roku is just terrible with their voice remote, in my opinion.
Oh, really? I haven't had that much problem with it. All I do with the Roku voice search is search. So I don't try to do anything fancy with it. But that's one of the things that has always got me leaning toward Roku was that when I search something, they don't make any bones about it. They just list it by price. So if I want to watch The Lord of the Rings because I'm a giant nerd, then they're going to show me every streaming service that carries it. And if I'm subscribed to any of those, it puts them up at the top. And if I'm not, then it puts the cheapest stuff up at the top. I think that's really great. The Chromecast does that as well, which I was really excited for. The only problem with that is that they do put one extra step in there for you to find that list. They just make it a lot easier to go ahead and just rent it from Google, right?
Yeah, right.
So that's one of those little things. Like I get it, they got to make their buck, but
Right.
that doesn't mean it's not a little annoying.
Sure.
I just wish that we could get to the point where there's like, so you know how in the phone space you have iOS and Android and they're like the big two and you know kind of what you're getting into.
Yeah.
I know it's sad to say this, but I want to see some consolidation in the streaming platform market so that we get to the point where there's like one or two of them and the experience can be consistent for people that like the controlled experience or people that like the Android experience. Because what I have found, because of all these platforms, apps like Netflix will function totally different on these different streaming services. Like, I'll give you one quick example. Going back to the Flexbox example, with the voicemail on Flex, I can do things like, say, fast forward 2 minutes and 15 seconds. Like, I could be very precise.
Yeah.
And it will work. And that's awesome because a lot of times on other platforms, it'll have like some automated like 10-second skip or 15-second skip. So you're always missing that like one little point, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
Or it might be other things like on YouTube, for specific on iOS for the longest time, you couldn't like manually select the resolution when you were watching on mobile phones.
Right.
Like, I just want a consistent experience for these apps, and I feel like if we narrow down this, the platforms, that will happen.
I wouldn't mind that. I will say we'll get there. That's how the market works, right? It's right now it's just the Wild West. Everybody's trying to get in on it, and there have already been a lot of failed attempts. I don't know if you guys remember Sling TV put out their Air TV player. I think they're still selling it.
I remember that.
But yeah, there's things like that where it's like, oh, we're gonna make a splash in the market, and then it just falls with a thud, right? And that is gonna happen. It just takes time. Like all of the other devices, they'll kind of drop off, and everybody will own probably one of like three things. If I were to guess, it would be Roku, Amazon, and Google. And then you'll still have niche devices like Apple TV, awesome device. Don't get me wrong, but it is niche. Like only Apple power users are going to use it.
And it's $200.
Right, exactly. Same thing with like the NVIDIA Shield, awesome device, but I don't really want to pay $180, when I can just get a streaming stick for $30.
Right.
So, anyway, but yeah, there will always be those little niche devices, just like a lot of people still use Linux. Like it'll always be around, but yeah, I think it'll whittle down and we'll probably end up with those three after another few years.
Okay. I think that makes sense. We've talked a little bit about the different boxes and devices that are available. Craig, I'm curious, what services are you personally using? Are you just blanket subscribed to all of them for reviews.org to make sure you're always up to date? Or are there some that you personally use? What's your setup like? Yeah,
those two very different questions. The answer to what am I subscribed to is everything. Just about. A lot of that is just for myself, but some of it is for reviews. And so what do I personally, oh gosh, I'm looking over at my Roku, like, okay, what do I watch? I find myself most often now going into HBO Max. I love HBO Max. My standard line right now is HBO Max is worth $15 a month, a lot sooner than Netflix is worth $14 a month.
That's interesting, Craig. Why do you say that?
This is for me. Like everybody's going to have their own taste, their own programming that they like. But I enjoy the premium programming on HBO Max, and I like their layout, the way they've got their hubs laid out, so I can find stuff more easily. The way that they put all their recommendations together, I think is it's a little bit more of a learning curve than Netflix, where it's just like scroll down until you find something. But it's also a little more robust as far as the navigation goes, and I prefer it.
Sure.
I'm actually on the same. Sorry, I was going to say I'm actually on the same train as you, Craig. HBO Max is my favorite streaming service. I get it for free from AT&T because I have their Elite plan. Mm-hmm. And for me, I don't necessarily think their app's the best. I think actually, it's decent, but I think Netflix has the better app. But from content standpoint, they already had that huge catalog built up over years from like Game of Thrones and Sopranos, and they got classics like Looney Tunes. Like I grew up watching that cartoon. It was one of my favorites. So I'm an HBO Max man myself. Plus, if you're doing an apples to apples comparison, Netflix is like $18 for the 4K version with the 4 screens. HBO is only charging $15, so it's actually cheaper as well.
Yeah, if you're going for 4K. Yeah, absolutely. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, and they're doing all these releases this year on HBO Max, which I have some opinions about as far as
how you want to share. So you're talking about the same day in theaters and same day on HBO Max. Yeah, Craig, what are your thoughts on this? This is such a kind of a big move in the industry.
Oh, well, and the thing is, I got to be careful because I don't want to pretend to know the theater industry that well, right? Or the movie industry, movie industry. But as far as the HBO Max angle goes, although I from what I can tell, it's probably overall a stupid move. It is really good for HBO Max and will bring in a few more subscribers, not nearly enough to cover the losses that I suspect they'll have from the theaters. But yeah, they're creating a lot of buzz. You think about Wonder Woman came out in December, and fine, you hate me if you want, but that movie sucked. But
I agree.
It still created a lot of great buzz and got a lot of people signed up. And now I am fully on board. I want to see what Zack Snyder can do. I want that Snyder cut. I want the Godzilla versus Kong. Like, they've got a slate of really good stuff coming out. So they'll do pretty well this year, I think. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So you were saying, when we asked originally, so you were telling us HBO Max is your main streaming service that you use. What's your secondary one that you're going to?
Oh, let's see. Disney Plus for the kids and sometimes for me. Netflix. I use Prime Video quite a bit. I don't use Hulu much these days. I barely use Peacock. Discovery Plus is dope.
Really?
Oh, I disagree.
Discovery Plus is awesome if you like that content.
I do like that content,
what are they? They're documentaries, right? Nature films.
It's largely made up of cheap reality TV stuff. So Food Network, TLC, A&E, Discovery, of course.
So is it sort of like those live Food Network shows that you can now just sort of stream on demand?
Yeah.
Okay. But here's my hot take on this. Okay, so I love A&E's content because I binge watched 60 Days In, the prison show from A&E, and yeah, it's on Discovery Plus, but it's also on Hulu. And same thing with a lot of TLC shows like 90 Day Fiance. Yes, I watched that with my girlfriend. Also on Hulu. So Discovery Plus to me is just a waste of money because most of their content that matters is on Hulu already, which is $11 for no ad and $5 for with ads.
6, I think. Yeah.
Or $6.
No, I get what you're saying. It won't be that way forever. You think they're going to leave it on Hulu? No, they won't. Anyway, it's my standard line for a while has been the only thing keeping people on their cable plans is live sports, news, and basically everything that's on Discovery Plus. And so they've taken away one of those reasons to stay with cable. So, by the way, I did notice somebody in the chat said, don't think I didn't notice the Lego in the corner there. So I'll tell you, there are a lot of services that I do enjoy. The Lego channel is one of them. That's awesome for kids. If you got kids, I've got 2. Don't knock the Lego channel. How dare you? But I will say this. As far as services go, there is one much maligned streaming service out there that I will defend to my dying day.
This is the hill that you will die on.
Absolutely.
What is this?
Apple TV Plus.
Oh, no.
Oh, okay, Craig, this is beautiful. So we actually have a question from Mark, a Patreon supporter of the show. His question is, when do you think Apple TV Plus will be a true competitor to Netflix, Disney Plus, and HBO Max?
Never.
Wow. Okay, so Craig, your hill to die on is Apple TV Plus, and it will never be a competitor to the other streaming platforms. What is your take? What do you feel like is going on here with Apple TV Plus?
I don't need it to be a competitor to Netflix. We don't have to. Sorry, Dennis. I don't relish the idea of all of the consolidation, right? So I know that it's going to happen, but I do like the idea that there is still room for niche products out there. So I'm fine if Netflix, Disney Plus, and HBO Max are basically like the last ones standing, right? These are the big ones, and they all have 500 million subscribers. and they're all $15 a month. That's fine with me, as long as there's still room for these other channels out there. Apple TV Plus is not a competitor to those because it's not doing the same thing that they are. Apple doesn't have a giant backlog of content from the Paramount vault or the Warner Brothers vault or the Disney vault to pull in and throw onto a streaming service. They don't have that. But what they do have is like maybe 50-ish shows now that are essentially HBO quality. Whether you like them or not, everybody has their own taste, but they are quality shows that I have thoroughly enjoyed watching. And I'll say that I am not what you would call a hipster, except when it comes to something like Ted Lasso. I was shouting at people for months, Ted Lasso is the greatest thing, on your streaming and on any streaming service right now. And turns out everybody figured out I was right.
That's amazing.
If it's as good as you're saying it is, Craig, then Apple, for the first time ever in their life, has done a terrible job at marketing it to me, because I got it for free when I got my iPhone 11 for a year. And one of the first things I did after having it for like 6 months, one day, I was just like, you know what? I looked through it real quick, and I was like, I'm going to cancel this before I forget, because I didn't see anything on there that caught my eye where I was just like, wow, I got to like binge watch this. But
so you didn't actually try any of the shows. You just looked at the titles and pieced out.
I basically looked. I saw like you said, like 40 shows or whatever. Like literally, I could scroll twice on the scroll wheel, and I was like, oh, that's all the content that's on here. Peace. And I just pieced out.
No,
I just signed it.
I don't know. I have mixed impressions here. So one, I love that it's only $5. I think that's the super sweet price point for what Apple's offering, and I think it's smart they're bundling it with their Apple One subscription. And two, like Dennis said, they included it for free. That actually got extended, so I think I have it for free until July. And then I got the new iPhone 12 and signed in with a different Apple ID, and they offered it to me again for a year. So on that, I just have 2 years of Apple TV Plus. And I watched and loved the morning show. I don't know if there's another season out yet, but I thought that was fantastic. And I don't know. I haven't really dived into the content enough, but I think, Craig, you bring up a great point where Apple's production quality is really, really high. Like, it's on par with the other studios, and it's kind of about people discovering the content and realizing they enjoy it to add value. And I think they're doubling down on kids content. Is that correct? Or is that another platform that might be doing that?
I haven't kept up exactly with any of their press releases the last couple of months, so they could be. But
okay.
I think, but you nailed it. It's essentially what happened with Dennis is people look at it, and I think we're used to this idea of what a streaming service is. You log in and you're assaulted with thousands of titles. And like, oh my gosh, look at all these things. It's like, I'm kid in a candy store. What do I want to watch now? With Apple TV Plus, it's not that way. This is, if we want to abuse the metaphor a little bit, instead of a candy store, it's like fine dining, and you're only presented with like 8 things on the menu. And it's like, what do you want? The chef will whip it up for you, And it's so people pop in and see that it's not what they expect. And so they're like, oh, this is weird. I'm going to go back to what I know, without ever actually watching the shows. So the morning show is fantastic. I'm one of the few people who enjoyed C. For All Mankind is awesome. There's just so much good stuff on there.
But the problem is like, in order to get someone interested in a show, it either needs to be talked about by your friends or someone that you know. Mm-hmm. Advertising, like, so you see it on like TV or something on the internet, or X. Like it needs to be done. Yeah. Apple stays dead quiet on it, which is very surprising, because I constantly iPhone ads all the time bombarded at me, but they don't market their streaming service. So the streaming service is not meant to make them any money. It's meant to make you a stickier consumer of their products. That's why they're only charging $5. They spent $2 billion on this freaking content. They need to charge $25 a month if they want to, ever even hope to break even. Of course, then everybody will get out of there, right? So, no, the whole point of it is you bought that iPhone, and so you're like, oh, sweet, Apple TV Plus, great, I get that for free, and it's really easy to watch on my phone, and I can send it over to my laptop or my iPad or whatever. It's in the ecosystem, and so it gets you further enmeshed in that ecosystem once you get watching. So it's not meant to make them money. That's why you keep seeing ads for the iPhone,
The iPhone makes them a bunch of money. Apple TV Plus doesn't.
Fair
makes a lot of
enough.
sense.
But I mean, I know Apple has consistently talked about diversifying their revenue stream. Since the iPhone makes up the bulk of their profits, I know they've been trying very hard to not only make the iPhone cheaper to get more people on iOS so that people subscribe to like iCloud and these other, software generated revenue, but I know they want to diversify with like other product lines and product stacks. So I actually do think Apple, counterpoint, I think Apple wants their streaming service to make money, but they know that they can't charge the type of money that they would need to turn a profit on it, and so they're investing in other avenues. Is my personal take.
I'm fine with saying that as long as we caveat it with yet. Like, they know it's not going to make them any money, but I'm sure that they have hopes for in the future this becoming the next HBO.
Yeah.
Like if you're a consumer of fine content, then you're going to have Apple TV Plus.
Speaking of networks with fine content, Disney Plus has that moniker. And I don't personally buy Disney Plus. I'm using my girlfriend's. And
Sinner.
I am a sinner. And the only thing I binge watched on it was basically all the Star Wars content. I watched all the movies, including the new ones that I missed out on, and I watched The Mandalorian, of course. But outside of that, I didn't see anything on there. Now, Craig, you've been a person that loves these fine dining streaming services that are super niche. Tell me how I'm wrong. Tell me how Disney Plus secretly has like a deep library I don't know about right now.
Dennis, do you have kids?
I do not.
Okay, well, there you go. It's closed. No, it's if you've got kids, it is a must-have, absolute must-have. If you don't, it still might be. But for you, it's like, oh, I love Star Wars, and so I'm going to binge all the Star Wars content, and then you're done with it. And so I think it would be totally fine for you to shut down your Disney Plus subscription, and then next time you get a hankering for some Star Wars content, next time The Mandalorian Season 3 comes out, you go ahead and re-up it and use it for a few months, right? I think that's totally fine. But I think for most people, when it comes to Star Wars, Marvel, what else am I thinking of? Like Indiana Jones, what are the properties? Anyway, Disney has stuff that will appeal to absolutely everybody. Or I guess I should say absolutely most people in your case. But what it comes down to at the end of the day is, do you have kids?
Yeah, or nay, yeah.
Yeah.
No, my roommate is super into the Marvel universe, and we love Disney Plus. We watch the Star Wars TV shows, and when those ended, they came out with WandaVision, and that's been like the next hook. And I think my personal favorite aspect to Disney Plus is how the shows come out like a regular TV show does. Like every Friday we get a new episode, and they leave us with this cliffhanger, and we're waiting until next week. And I've really loved that. It makes something nice to look forward to on Fridays. Although last year when it was just The Mandalorian, my friend signed up, I used her account, and then I think they canceled because like they watched all the new content they needed, and like they didn't need it anymore.
This was the whole weekly content versus binge content has been really interesting. Netflix kind of floated that trial balloon a couple of years ago, where they started releasing a few things on a weekly basis, but then people lost their ever-loving minds because it's Netflix. Netflix is all about the binge, and that's their brand. But I think it makes a lot of sense for HBO Max, for Disney Plus, for Apple TV Plus to do this weekly model. Everybody has their own preferences, but I really like the idea of, and it's in my mind smart marketing. I like the idea of this episode came out, it blew everybody's minds. They talked about it for like 3 days, and then things died down. And then the day before the next episode comes out, the internet goes crazy again. Oh my gosh, the next WandaVision, what's going to happen? And it's just a really, really great way to build momentum if it's a good show. The only problem is you can sneak a bad show under the radar faster or better this way than you can with the binge model. So you don't quite know, oh, is this thing I'm watching, am I really invested in this for a good reason? Like, how do I put this? The Walking Dead never would have made it 18,000 seasons if it had been a binge show, if that makes sense. Like, people would have figured out a lot faster, like, oh my gosh, this is actually super boring. but it wasn't. It's a weekly show, so it was able to build up that momentum. I don't know. That's my
Sure.
takeaway.
It almost sounds like the cliffhanger brought people back, and the fact that the shows were so spread out made it you didn't realize it was the same show or the same plot story or story arc on repeat week after week. That was super repetitive.
Yeah.
Which is funny because I got into The Walking Dead by binge watching like 3 seasons. Although this was back using DVDs. There was a family video. I used my report card to get like the free rentals, and that's how I binge watched it. But Craig, we're talking a lot about the streaming services that have come up. I want to ask you, are you still subscribing to like any live TV options? Like obviously you ditched traditional cable, but like do you have like YouTube TV? Do you have Hulu Live TV? How are you getting like that stuff?
It's a great question. I don't. The only time I ever sign up for a live TV service is during college football season. So I don't need to keep up with like the things that are actually on network TV, like, oh, it's must-see TV Thursday. No, it's not anymore. Nobody needs to see this on Thursdays. And so I much prefer watching things on my own schedule. The exception to this, and I should say, and I don't watch any more like cable news or anything like that. So a lot of my reason for potentially staying with cable is just gone. And the same thing applies to live TV generally, with the exception of sports and local news, but you can just throw an antenna on your wall for that.
Yeah. My family, interestingly enough, we've never had cable. We've never paid for a cable box or subscription. So growing up, Netflix was really our only source of TV entertainment. And now that I'm kind of on my own, I have Netflix and then some of the other subscription services as well to get a little bit more content in there. But yeah, I think we never got invested in sports. So we didn't really have that calling to us. And I think today, especially now, it's almost better to kind of skip the live TV and go with, the services that meet your needs to get that better streaming experience. And some of the new options, too, I think are getting more creative with what they're able to provide and bundle in, and they're trying to appeal to all those different customers.
Yeah.
Man, I feel like the old man of the group. I was going to say my Stetson, I said this on the show.
Says the guy who said he used his report cards to get the DVDs for The Walking Dead. I'm sorry, but I've got you beat, buddy.
I know. I actually ordered in Stetson, by the way, but no. I was gonna say my parents. I got them on YouTube TV, and I set that up with my Google account, so obviously I have access. And like when you were talking about Discovery Plus earlier, the reason why I would never subscribe to that is because Discovery and all that content's already on YouTube TV. And I watch it for local news because Nintendo doesn't work very well where I'm at. And then I watch it for, like I said, stuff like A&E. And then sports, like you said, specifically Penn State college football for me. I don't know what your team is. But I wanted to ask as well. I'm blanking. Oh, CBS All Access to Paramount Plus.
Yeah.
You just did a review on that just recently. Why don't you tell me your thoughts on that particular streaming service? Because to me, I'm not that excited, but you tell me.
I am tentatively fine with it. I was never a big CBS All Access person. Nothing against it. It just didn't have the content that grabbed me. And Paramount Plus is basically just a reskin of CBS All Access. They do have some stuff now that they're pulling in that they didn't have on CBS All Access, and so that's great. But yeah, mostly I think this is just a rebranding so that they can bring in the Paramount library and make it make more sense.
Isn't sports coming to it? Did I misunderstand? Isn't sports supposed to be coming to it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's there. You can watch a bunch of let's see, they've got soccer going on, so you can watch some live games. They've got hundreds of replays from the Europa League and the Champions League. They've got, of course, CBS has which league is it? One of the two in the NFL. CBS has I think it's the NFC that has a deal with CBS, and so they run a lot of NFC games.
Yeah, Steelers play on.
Yeah, so you'll be able to watch those there. They do have a live feed for your local CBS station and like national CBS News, CBS Sports Network. So there'll be a good bit of live sports, I think, going on there.
And then also, no one really talks about it, but free streaming services. Is there any that you gravitate to? Like, are you like a big Pluto guy? Like, I love Pluto because they have the Brady Bunch on there 24/7. Like, I don't know. Is there like a free one?
Okay,
that you gravitate?
I bow down to your age, Dennis. That's fine. I don't care how old you are. You're the old man here. That's fine. No, it's funny you say that because the most successful videos on our channel have been when we go like do a top 10 list of the best free streaming apps on whatever device, Roku, Fire TV, Apple TV. And so, yeah, I've got a few over here that I can mention. You mentioned Pluto, which is great. That's the best like cable imitator. But then the best Netflix imitator is probably Tubi. Tubi, Crackle, or FilmRise. But somebody already called out my love of the Lego channel. That's a free channel that you can go check out. I feel like, oh, you know what? I need to turn my camera here so you can see this. There is actually a streaming service called Baby Boomer Cartoons. And so, Dennis, if you're that old at heart, then you need to go check out Baby Boomer Cartoons. It's all like stuff that's it's in the public domain, so they get to stream it for free. But it's a great little collection of the classic stuff.
I just might, because the whole reason I got excited about HBO Max when that came out was because my mom, she loved the Jetsons and the Flintstones. So because she loved it, I watched that growing up. Yeah. And then my dad was the Looney Tunes guy. And I literally have old box sets of DVDs and VCR tapes. There's a throwback for you. VCR tapes, like old Star Wars and like the Looney Tunes and stuff. So it was nice to have that actually in full HD on HBO Max and like the best possible resolution. Yeah. But I also love like old shows like I Love Lucy. If you know that show. So the old sitcom.
I'm familiar with its work.
Well, I don't know. There's something about that old like black and white style that's very appealing, and then the old cartoons where they're just so. I don't know. There's just something about the same way you can watch an old Mickey Mouse cartoon from Walt Disney. You're just like, huh, that was something before there was even I don't know.
Yeah, go check out Baby Boomer Cartoons, and there's also one called Baby Boomer TV. So you can go watch the old I Love Lucy. You can watch Mr. Ed. You can watch all that old stuff. It's great.
It's amazing.
I will.
So,
but
yeah, no. If you guys or if anybody watching wants to go check out the channel, and if you sort our videos by the most popular, then it's just top 10 free channels, one after the other. It's a bunch of those videos, so people can go check it out with whatever device they stream on.
That's amazing, Craig. So I'm curious, what did you think of the rise and fall of Quibi?
Oh man, this is the part where I get to exercise my charity, my charity bone. I was really excited about it. Here, I do not mind admitting when they made their announcement in 2020 at they did a big thing at CES. So I went to their press press conference there about Quibi. And it was very interesting, the way that they laid it out. Hey, look at all these stars that we've got. Look at all this.
Playing from OnePlus 8 Pro.
Shut up. They've got all these stars. They've got all the the money pouring in. And then they said, oh, and we invented this technology where you'll be able to watch it on your cell phone. And you can just tilt your screen and it'll change the way you interact with your shows. And I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. And then the pandemic hit, and I was like, I was like trying to send my vibes to Quibi. I don't know anybody at Quibi, but I was like, for the love of everything that is holy, do not release your streaming service right. Oh, they did it. And they released it right after the pandemic started. And obviously it's a streaming service that's meant to be on your phone on the go. All of their marketing material was like, oh, you're at the bus stop, you're waiting on the train, just go ahead and, flip open your Quibi, watch a little Quibi. And then nobody was on the go for several months at least. And I just thought that was so foolish because they had some decent content, which they've now sold to Roku.
We'll see what happens there.
The technology was the coolest part to me.
Because it was interesting, but they didn't do enough with it. They highlighted a few shows and a few little things in their press clippings that were kind of interesting. And that was fine. And then when you actually got down into it and actually tried to use it, it turned out not to be that interesting. What was the one with Liam Hemsworth or the remake of that classic? I can't remember the name of it. But it was this action movie. And if I watched it like this, that's fine. It looks just like a regular action movie, kind of small, but that's fine. And then I went like this, and it just, all it did was, it's the same movie, but now I can't see anything, And that was the bulk of the content. It wasn't actually built for this cool technology they came out with. So of course it was going to fail. I'm not happy about it, but as soon as they released, I was like, oh, this isn't going to work out. So I am happy to be right once again.
I didn't use it. I knew it was going to probably flop because of the reasons you mentioned. I just thought that the idea of interactive content would have been interesting. Like, picture like a horror film where you're actually like you're getting told to do specific things for the experience. Yeah. Granted, that's not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but like I could see it working well for that specific genre of content.
Oh, there was one really cool example that they showed. I think it was basically a commercial for Ring, if I remember right. I'm trying to remember. It was one of the video doorbells, but they had this cool thing where when you were so sorry, I'll set the scene. This guy comes to the door. He knocks on the door, and there's this young woman who is home alone. She doesn't want to answer the door. Who is it? What's good? She's answering the Ring on her tablet, of course. Whatever. Who's this? And delivery, whatever. And then things start getting scary, and he's banging on the door. Let me in, and whatever. But that's the scene. Every time you would watch it like this in landscape mode, you would see the girl. And she's talking to the iPad. She's answering the door or whatever. And then you turn it like this, and it would show you the guy at the door through the Ring footage, and he's kicking the door down. And so you could switch back and forth between the two. I thought that was really cool and really inventive. And that was a commercial. And none of their actual content was that cool. So
see, that's where it would have been cool. Stuff like that. Or even another idea too. Like I'm sure you've seen YouTube videos with like the 360 degree like angled stuff of like downtown New York. I feel like you could do some really cool cinematographic stuff with that. Like imagine actually being able to interactively move throughout your house and it be the horror film. I think it was Westworld. No, not Westworld. There was some sci-fi like a utopian future game where they had some messed up VR stuff like that, where like literally you would scan the room and it would become the horror films where it takes place. You would see like the monster coming through the wall and that kind of thing. But Stetson,
yeah,
I am sorry for talking so much. Do you think we should ask Craig about his terrible cell phone plan?
Yeah, I think we should. I mean, I was going to quickly comment that I totally agree on Quibi. I couldn't watch it vertically. I think it just that orientation hurt my mind. Like it felt so limited, and they didn't integrate it with Chromecast. So there was no way to watch the shows on the go at home on the big screen. Yeah, I think a combination of forces really took it down the drain, unfortunately. But yeah, as Dennis mentioned, Craig, we kind of talk a lot about cell phone plans here on the channel, kind of indicative of the name, Best Phone Plans Podcast. So we're really curious, what plan are you using? What phone do you have? And we'd be keen to see how we could make it better.
Okay, so I'm fine with my phone. The actual phone is good. I use a OnePlus 8 Pro.
Ooh, great phone.
So yeah, it's a good phone, but I have been with Verizon for over a decade. I'm not on an unlimited plan. In fact, I'm going to try to log in so I can see what my...
Excuse me, Craig? What?
Why would I need an unlimited plan now when I spend an average of 23 and a half hours a day in the confines of my own home with Wi-Fi?
Because your old plan's probably just as expensive.
Probably. Okay.
And also because before the podcast started, you told us it was a terrible plan. So
No, I'm curious. I mean, I agree with that thesis 100%. Like, I'm at home on Wi-Fi all the time, and it's almost ironic. Like, I review cell phone plans and use almost no data. Like, I could be fine on a 3 gig plan, but for my actual cell phone usage, I force myself to like go out, do tests, like, I'll try streaming this show on the road. Like I'll park my car somewhere and like test it out.
Right.
But no, I totally agree with that. So yeah, let us know if you're able to kind of figure out what legacy Verizon plan you have. It sounds like you've been with them for a while. Has coverage and performance been good for you?
Oh yeah, that's part of the reason I stayed with Comcast for so long, as far as like home internet and cable TV and whatnot, it's the same reason I stay with Verizon, is that like, it just freaking works. You hear people, it's less so these days, but people who used to be on Sprint before it got merged with T-Mobile, or people who were on T-Mobile at the time, or on one of the MVNOs when they were brand new, they would talk about getting, their coverage would skip out, or they'd get dropped all the time, or whatever the case may be. Verizon just freaking works all the time, at least where I'm at. And so I'm willing to pay a little bit extra for that. Like, I'm not out to get the cheapest plan out there. I'm more concerned with that balance of like, what's actually going to work and what am I not going to have to pay too much for.
And Craig, before you tell us too much about your plan, I just want to take a guess of what you're paying with this.
Okay, hang on a second. Let me. I want to see if I can find the plan name.
Let's
I don't
do
think
some sleuthing. This is probably going to be a data bucket plan, and I'm guessing like a small, medium, or large kind of deal. That's my guess.
I'm thinking he predates. He said 10 years, so I'm thinking it predates that moniker.
Whoa.
I was gonna say. The only thing I want to know is how many lines do you have? Is it just one that you have on the account?
2. Me and my wife.
Okay.
All right. My guess for a price point, since it's Verizon with the old style plans, how they charge things, I'm guessing that you're paying $100 to $120.
Okay, my last bill was $130.90.
Whoa. That's
Jesus.
pretty close there. Wait, Craig, what are you getting for that? Like unlimited nights and weekends calling, unlimited minutes?
Is like 2 gigs of shared data?
That's a great question. This is why I was saying I really want to get together with Sherry over at Whistle Out and find,
Sherry will help you, Craig. Plan. Sherry will help you.
Oh, I know. But let's see. What am I getting for this? I am getting, it's a $50 account charge and then basically $40 for the 2 lines.
Oh, whoa. Okay. So that means you're probably on like a small 3 gig plan for $50 a month, and then
4 gigs, it looks like.
4 gigs. Woof.
And then you got your smart line access fee that they used to charge.
Yeah.
How wonderful.
Yeah, it's one of those things like, because like with streaming services, I mean, as we've established, I get paid to watch TV all day, and I have got my setup like streamlined. It is nice. I always know how much I'm paying and where and all this stuff because I pay attention to it. My cell phone just keeps freaking working. And so I haven't thought about it in years,
Well, Craig, if you want to know the godforsaken truth, if you still had Comcast internet, I would have told you should have got their cell phone service, Xfinity Mobile.
That's true.
Because they have a plan. It's 3 gigs of shared data. From a cost standpoint, it would have ran out to be like $35 total with tax and everything, or at least that's what would come to in my market in Pennsylvania.
Now, how long has Verizon Mobile been out?
Or Xfinity Mobile?
Or Xfinity, yeah.
I think 4 years.
Oh, that long? Wow. My guess, I'm betting that they're doing a similar thing that Apple TV is doing with Apple TV Plus.
Stickiness.
Don't know about this for sure, but yeah, stickiness. Like they've got you on the Xfinity cable and internet. You've got your Flex, and now you're on Xfinity Mobile. And so to get rid of any one of those things, your whole ecosystem falls apart, and you have to put it together one piece at a time.
Oh, correct.
So
I don't actually have their cable. I'm internet only.
That's right. Yeah, you have to be internet only to do whatever.
And as far as cell phone service is concerned, I actually have T-Mobile on this phone, and then there's another phone behind me that's on AT&T. So I don't actually have any Verizon-based cell phone service because, long story short, there was an experience I had with Verizon that this made me not ever go with Verizon as a cell phone provider. It had nothing to do with coverage in my market. It was just something totally separate. But I was just saying that would have been good. And then also US Mobile. We actually had the CEO of US Mobile on. Great guy. Awesome guy. But what's cool about his plans is if you get so many lines on a shared plan, you actually can pick 2 streaming services of your choice that they will pay for. So like, you could do like Netflix and PlayStation Plus, or you could do like Netflix and Spotify as like your perks. And then they have like these build your own plans. So like if you're the type of guy that doesn't need like a lot of data, but you want unlimited calling and texting, like you can do that. And it's like what, $10 Stetson before tax?
Yeah, so it'll be like I think $12 for a gig and $15 for 5 gigs per line. So
Sweet.
$30 for 2 lines, add some tax and fees in there, but you're getting the same coverage on the Verizon network. Something to consider. I'm even looking at, like, if you were to somehow go with the premium Verizon Unlimited plan, their Play More plan would be around the same $140 a month, but it includes your Disney Plus, Hulu, ESPN Plus subscription. So you can get that bundled in there.
Right.
Yeah.
And alternatively, too, if you weren't stuck on Verizon, other providers have improved their coverage over the years. T-Mobile has the new Magenta plan, which has tax and fees included, and I believe 2 lines is $140, right? Isn't that what it's like 70?
Yeah, I think that's about right.
It's like 70 on the first line, and I think it's like 50 or 60. Or I think it works out to 140. I'm not 100% sure. Let me double check that. But maybe look at T-Mobile or AT&T if you have a business, right? Your reviews.org, you own it, right?
Oh, I don't know. I don't own it. Are you kidding me? I'm not that cool.
Oh, well, do you have your own business, like,
sure,
at all? Okay.
This be the podcast, Legendarium. That would be its own thing.
Yeah, Legendarium Creative.
Well, if you want the best unlimited plan, in my opinion, Business Unlimited Elite from AT&T.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. You get 100 gigabytes of priority data, and you get, isn't it 100 gigs of hotspot on the business plan, Stetson?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm actually not sure about that. It might be like 50 gigs or something.
I know it's more than the normal elite plan on the residential side, but basically you're getting the highest possible priority on the network that AT&T has to offer. HBO Max is included with all their elite plans. You got some awesome hotspot data allotment, which is sweet. And from like a pricing standpoint, I think it would work out to being about $150 for you, because like the first line's like $85 and like the second one's like something else. They do some weird pricing like that, and then you got your taxes, of course. But it wouldn't be that much more expensive, and you're actually getting the legitimate best possible plan you could buy.
Yeah, if I were in a situation where I did a lot of business travel, or I was just out of the house a lot, even when I was in the office, I would just get on the Wi-Fi at work, right?
Yeah.
I've never needed an unlimited plan. There have only been a handful of months where I've gone over, and I'm like, well, okay, the overage charge at $10 or whatever, it's not gonna kill me to do that for a month. So yeah, I just haven't needed an unlimited plan. I certainly don't right now, but if I did a ton of stuff on the road, then yeah, I could see that being super useful.
Yeah, well, if you are looking to save money in your service, there are options out there, and I'm super excited to see your collaboration with Sherry, because I think you can come out with an even more affordable plan to put money towards your streaming services, or to upgrade your, TV or sound setup. That's another question before we kind of end the show here. You're watching all of this content. What is your setup for enjoying this? Have you built like a home theater, or you got like 5.1 surround sound? What are you currently rocking?
So I've got this standalone building out in my backyard. I built this as a podcast / YouTube studio. And
is this where you're recording now?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, it's been awesome. And what that means is I get to turn the volume up as loud as I want. So I've got a couch on the other side of the room, and I've got the TV here. So if I just need to check something, I'm still sitting at my desk. I just kind of click over and check it out. But a lot of nights I'll be sitting on the couch watching TV. And because I've got a TCL Roku TV, I sprung for the Roku speakers. You can kind of see one of them mounted on the wall right there.
Yeah.
So I've got those ones. I've been thinking about getting a sub, but honestly, it's not. It's not vital, because these speakers are very good. They're not like, they're not primo Bose or whatever, but they're very good. So that's 65-inch Roku TV, Roku speakers. I don't know. I've got speakers and microphones all over the place here. So
yeah. It sounds like you have smart speakers and stuff. I would definitely consider the subwoofer. I mean, one of the examples, I just watched something. It was the latest show of WandaVision, actually, with my roommate, and
which I haven't watched yet. So
no spoilers.
Right.
But to emphasize certain scenes in the movie, they put in this amazing low rumble that just, you feel it in your chair as you're watching. And I really think if you were to consider adding a subwoofer, if you wanted that like low rumble experience, I think you would you would enjoy it. And I think Roku actually has something that they offer for that, or you can, probably pick something else up. But yeah.
Hey, Craig, I want to just squeeze in a quick Patreon question that we had for you as well before I
Sure.
forget about it. So we had one of our Patreon supporters named Hector Hernandez. He asked, what is the first thing that you reviewed? And then there's follow-ups to this question, but I'll start with that part. I'll let you answer that. What was the first thing you reviewed?
Okay, so that's a great question. I believe I'm going to pull it up because I want to answer this right. I know the first thing I remember reviewing, but the actual first thing I reviewed was DirecTV.
Wow.
On May 12th, 2016, we published a DirecTV review.
Wow, Craig, coming up on the 5-year mark on YouTube.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah, we did DirecTV, we did Xfinity and Dish. And then we went into some internet reviews, Xfinity, Viasat, HughesNet. And then the first streaming service I ever reviewed was DirecTV Now in December of 2016. Wow.
And then the follow-up, it's a 3-part question. And then the follow-up to that is, he asked, what do you binge watch and on what platform? Which I think we already kind of answered. Your answer was Chromecast Now, and you binge watch a variety of stuff. And then the last question. Oh, sorry.
Well, no, I was going to say, I was really excited because Warner Media bought Cinemax. And so some Cinemax programming is making its way onto HBO Max. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, I binged the first 2 seasons of Banshee on Prime Video, but they didn't have the second 2 seasons, and I wasn't about to fork over the $30 to watch it, and so then I saw it coming up on there, so now I'm binging through the last little bit of Banshee. It's guilty watching.
Okay. And then the last part of his question was, how will cable TV survive in the age of streaming services?
It won't. Next question.
No, that was all from Hector Hernandez. It was
it's a good question. I'm being flippant. It deserves an answer. In the long term, it won't.
You don't think it will?
I don't think it will. The last place you'll find it is in like exurban and rural areas where we don't have the coverage for lightning fast internet or whatever. Even that is going to start going away now with things like Starlink and Amazon's Project Kuiper, whatever. Like there are things in the works now where I think it'll cling to life for a few more years. But here's my prediction. All right, ready? I'm putting on my big boy jacket and making my prediction. Once ESPN bails from their cable deals and satellite deals, once you can get ESPN the full package, so not like ESPN Plus, but once you can get the entire thing just on streaming on its own as an a la carte service, it's all over. That's it. We're done.
Here's my prediction. I think that cable as we know it will die, but I see it transitioning into like your cable provider offering you the streaming services like a bundle and you getting a discount that way. Similar to how Verizon did the Hulu, Disney Plus, ESPN Plus bundle. I think we'll see people like Comcast be like, here's Peacock, CBS All Access, and X, Y, and Z thing as like a bundle. And the reason I say that is because in other parts of the world, they already do that with streaming services. Like they don't actually have like the cable TV that we think of. They just still like streaming services for like US content, and they incorporate into their internet.
Right, but then it's not cable TV. So what happens to cable TV in this case? It goes away.
I think cable
but
TV
bundling,
I
think you're right. Bundling could still be a thing for sure. Sorry, Stetson.
No, cable TV as we know it will go away, and some other form that will give us the live TV we're used to will reemerge. And I think it'll likely be some sort of more flexible or more a la carte streaming solution that lets you get what you want without getting all this extra fluff bundled in there and congesting the shows you really want to see.
At the timetable one, did I give it actually like 5 years? I think it's going to be like 5 years.
I'd probably give it a little longer than that, but yeah, it's not too far in the distant future.
It's not making any headway in staying around. That's for sure.
Unless we start seeing the streaming services put their content back on cable, so it's like both ways, and the cost comes down, or the cost of streaming services keeps going up, in which case then cable might stay around longer. Because like we talked about with like Discovery Plus, I told you there was no reason for me to have it because I had all the content on my cable or on YouTube, right? And I said there was other ways to get it. So if that stays being true, then for families specifically that have multiple different preferences, cable TV often makes more sense than buying all the streaming services a la carte.
Yeah, the problem with this theory, the direction that you're thinking, I think, is that when it comes to cable, whether it's TV or internet services or satellite or whatever, there is a problem, the problem of infrastructure, right? And so to build this giant cable package, you've got to tap into that infrastructure. And so 30 years ago, 40 years ago, that was a closed door for the most part, except, unless you had a ton of capital that you'd raise to start some new cable conglomeration, right? And so all the channels existed within that, and they all needed to fight to get onto whatever cable or satellite programmer could carry their content. But now that's gone. As long as you've got an internet connection, you can get baby boomer cartoons, you can get the Lego channel, you can get all this stuff, and these providers will find ways to make it worthwhile, to make it profitable. And so we'll continue. I just don't see it going that same way, where, we talked earlier about the streaming devices kind of consolidating into a major few. On the streaming services side of things, I think there will be the giant ones, but we're not going to go back to the old ways of doing things where, one company owns 40% of, the entire market or 80% of the market, because you don't have that problem of infrastructure, that hurdle to get over to start a streaming service.
Unless there's arbitrary limits. I was going to say, depending on what the FCC does,
right.
I was going to say like for example, data caps. Data caps is what I meant to say.
Oh, yeah.
If data caps become the common thing for most people, that might really inhibit streaming service adoption, because that significantly jacks up your rates with all those overage fees.
Right, and I don't see that being the case. They're not rare, but you're less likely to have a data cap than not. And as things like fiber or satellite mesh networks, as they become more prominent, there's less of a reason to charge it. And the companies won't be able to hide behind whatever reasoning they had before for, we got to throttle the traffic for this or that reason. No, you don't.
Comcast just implemented it across the Northeast, which they traditionally never did. And then Spectrum has been pleading with the FCC to change their mandates about the merger so that they can also implement data caps. And they're the two biggest ISPs. I know you and Stetson are incredibly envious of, because you both have municipal fiber, which is not the norm for most Americans. I think what Frontier has data caps, CenturyLink has data caps, AT&T as well has data caps. Same thing with Comcast and Spectrum.
From what I understand, and it's been a few months since I looked it up. Verizon, Comcast. I think they might have rolled some of those back. And they never had it on all their plans to begin with. It was on some plans in some areas. And so a lot of Xfinity customers get unlimited data. So they do exist there, but it's not necessarily the norm.
Yeah, I mean, they changed it. I mean, they rolled it. They pulled it back until the end of this year in Northeast because of the pushback. But Comcast has a 1.2 terabyte cap on all plans now at this point, and that will be the case in Northeast if once the end of this year happens.
Well, when we have these, you guys know what I'm talking about with the mesh satellite networks?
Yeah, like Starlink and the other solutions that are emerging. Yeah. One
of the things I'm most excited about, I'm excited for two things when it comes to these. And the first is that I'll be able to work from anywhere in the country, and I'm not tied to a trunk line or something. But the other thing is that creates the competition that we need to keep those data caps out. Because like you said, they announced this thing, we're going to have a 1.2 terabyte data cap all across the Northeast, and everybody lost their ever-loving minds. And so they go, oh, okay, no, never mind. Oh, I guess not. If people have 2, 3, 5 other options to go to that are viable options, then suddenly the company loses a lot of power to impose those things on their customer base, and they have to kind of bow to the will of the customers, right? So I'm excited for that. More competition, yeah.
That is the hope. I was gonna say Starlink also gets me excited, but we've talked at length about gaming in particular since I'm a gamer. Well, I've brought it up that stuff like Starlink wouldn't be great for that. And then we talked about T-Mobile's home internet with a guest called Sneed, because he's been reviewing it over in the Cleveland market. And he's had some mixed stories after his first month of service. So we will definitely wait and see. But Craig, I want to sincerely thank you for coming on. I have been a huge enjoyer of your content, and it's been a pleasure to pick your brain about a variety of topics. Do you have anything that you want to say to our audience before we wrap up on the show?
No, I appreciate people watching. Appreciate you guys for hosting me. I hope people will go check out reviews.org if they're interested in the streaming world. And we just did our Paramount Plus review, like you said, released that today. Woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning so I could start watching TV. And let's see. I've got my Twitter handle right here next to my name. So if people want to go follow me, I'm not a huge tweeter, but I'll tweet back at you. So if anybody has any questions, you're welcome to hit me up there.
That's amazing. Craig, thank you so much. Anyone who's watching or listening, you can find all of Craig's stuff actually linked in this video description. It's all there, reviews.org, his Twitter information, so you can follow him there. Craig, thank you again for your time. We really enjoyed talking with you. Any upcoming videos you want to tease or anything like that?
We have brought on, I'll tease this. We brought on a third contributor, I guess a fourth, if you're counting me. So we now have 4 of us making weekly videos on the channel. And we just brought somebody on. His name is Juan Carlos Bagnell. He has his own YouTube channel that's amazing. And we're bringing him into the fold here to discuss internet issues. So we've been talking about this for a while now. And his videos are so good. They're so good. It's the kind of thing where I might not even care about what he has to say, but it's so interestingly done that I just watch his videos front to back anyway. So I hope people go check him out. He's going to be talking about Starlink soon. He's done some stuff on 5G and that sort of thing. And his videos are just so informative and fun that I think everybody would enjoy them.
Amazing. Well, maybe we'll have to have him on the show as well.
Yeah.
Either way, that's going to be it for this episode. Craig, thank you again. Everyone watching, please take care. Have a wonderful rest of your evening, and we look forward to talking to you in the next episode.
Cheers, guys.